We usually picture archives as quiet rooms where objective facts sit patiently, waiting to be discovered. It's a comforting idea, the past as an innocent puzzle. But a vault can be structured by silence just as much as by data. Consider the story of Casa Nova Productions. When the modern company receives a massive buyout offer, the directors see a financial windfall. The terms seem clean, until the fine print reveals a specific demand. The buyers insist on an immediate archival review of legacy holdings. They aren't interested in tax returns. They are looking for lineage, the hidden records of births, deaths, and debts that have been sealed for 400 years. When an archive tracks the movement of families who hid to survive, the act of reading those records becomes a form of pursuit. In this context, the rival company isn't performing due diligence. They are weaponizing a history they haven't earned. If dragging a protected name into the light can be an act of violence, it forces us to rethink the goal of research. How do we uncover history without repeating the harm that buried it? Approaching a vault as a treasure to be conquered fails the people whose lives are stored inside. Ethical interpretation requires us to move past the role of a detective and accept the responsibility of a steward. We find the roots of this responsibility in Florence, a city where history was written twice, once for the public record and once for the sanctuary. Beneath the Casa Nova estate, the family's corporate ledgers seem to track nothing more than the mundane expenses of a wealthy household. To the authorities, these were kitchen supplies, but for the resistance, the frequency of the deliveries tracked the passage of a child under a false name. When the volumes of flour recorded far exceed what a single house could eat, the administrative logic breaks. The institution used a clean, plausible story to camouflage a dangerous rescue. We cannot treat these documents as objective truth. An ethical reading looks past the fact of the candle purchase to understand the motive behind the deception. This strategy of camouflage extended to the most private spaces of the house. Veronica's notebooks appear on the surface to be simple lists of household chores. She recorded the weather, the daily laundry, and specific instructions like hanging 3 white dresses on the line or leaving milk at the blue gate. By mapping these details onto a spatial and chronological timeline, Veronica built a rescue route. The blue gate wasn't a landmark, it was a coordinate. The milk wasn't a grocery, it was a timestamp. This is marginal testimony. Because power structures dismissed domestic work, these rescue routes remained invisible to the officials searching for the child. By using the language that men with authority ignored, laundry, saints' days, and errands, marginalized people encoded their survival in the very spaces power deemed unworthy of notice. To reconstruct this history ethically, we have to value the evidence of the kitchen and the garden as highly as the evidence of the courtroom. But the archive also contains artifacts that refuse to be solved. Consider the Oracle Cafe tickets bound in a black ribbon, or the family lineage book, where the 5th line is left blank. These represent hermeneutic mourning. They are physical traces of a grief that could not be named publicly. The ribbon doesn't identify the witness, it honors their silence. The detective's instinct is to fill that blank line, to track down the name and finish the story. But the 5th line was left blank to protect a living descendant. Filling it for the sake of completeness turns a private trauma into a public exhibit, repeating the exposure the family originally fled. In these cases, the blank space is the most honest record we have. It proves that we can acknowledge a tragedy without demanding to own the identity of the person who suffered it. This distinction between recovery and possession is what transforms Lucia Isabel's work. She shifts from an heir who inherits property to a shepherdess who inherits obligations. The blank line and the coded ledger show that the archive was built on a foundation of care. Therefore, the researcher's goal cannot be to weaponize those secrets for a modern reputation. When we interpret these wounded histories, we aren't just observing the past. We are making a moral choice about how that information is handled in the present. The Casa Nova records function as a reactive system. The meanings change based on our questions, creating a dialogue between the dead and the living. Ultimately, the archive asks us to move past the desire for mastery. The final question is not how much we can find, but how we can honor the people who suffered to keep those fragments alive.